Hi everyone. So this is my summary of chapters 3, 4, and 5. Chapter 3, Imagining the Possibilities. So questions to consider for building the framework of a project. What's the big idea? Is it authentic and can students relate? What other subjects can be covered? What's the Common Core standards that will be used? And what are the essential learning functions, which I'll get into in the next slide, and what kind of product could the students produce to demonstrate their learning? So essential learning functions, what are they? Well, there's research, make ideas visible, collaboration, project management, reflection, and supported study or enrichment. And why are these important? Well, there is the opportunity for deeper learning, which makes it more meaningful. You're learning with others and from others. There's the organization and the coherence of a project. And then there's a more thoughtful process and better work. And keeping your students in mind. So questions to consider there. Will they care? Will their curiosity be sparked? Is the learning interesting enough to keep them engaged and motivated? And what kinds of activities will excite them? So chapter 4 summary, strategies for discovery. So they talked about some potential pitfalls to avoid when planning your project. And there are too many activities and not enough learning. Technology is used only as dressing. And thematic lessons are not always project-based lessons. Excuse me, overly planned with too many steps, not enough flexibility, and not enough formative assessment. And then finally, assessment that is not authentic or real. So characteristics of a good project. And these are some things that the chapter talked about. Flexibility for different learning paths. So students can construct their own meaning. Another example would be centers on students' interest. It's very important. Students learn with and from each other. Again, collaboration. Promotes learning dispositions like persistent, risk-taking, self-reflection, and cooperation. And then promotes 21st century literacy skills like communication, collaboration, technology, and creativity. Includes hands-on learning and utilizes an authentic audience for sharing. So a good bit of advice that I got from this chapter was reviewing other projects before planning your own. So you can look at what others have done. This will give you an opportunity to critique and decide whether to make changes to an existing project or design your own. And so some websites to look at for existing projects were given in the chapter as well. And these are just a few of them. So chapter 5 summary, making assessment meaningful. So they talked about summative assessment, which had two purposes: to measure student learning and to evaluate the quality of the project so it can be even better the next time. And then formative assessment. And they talked about the three purposes: to guide students' efforts towards learning goals, to make adjustments to help students achieve quality results, and to be able to use as progress markers. So this was the graphic that I took from page 98, Planning for Summative Assessment. So the objectives, what will students learn through the project? And then how will they be able to demonstrate their learning through evidence? And then what kinds of activities will they do to go from not knowing to knowing? And then that goes back to, of course, what will the students have learned? So using rubrics for assessment. They talked about the two kinds. There's school-wide rubrics, which are now becoming more popular as project-based learning has become more widely used. And if not, then you're going to have to develop your own. And they suggested these three main categories when developing a rubric: knowledge gained, skills learned, and the processes or dispositions used. And then a couple semesters ago, students were developing their own rubrics, and this was the website that we used, and I thought it was a lot of good information and very useful. So the rubrics need to be shared with students so they understand what the expectations are and how they will be graded. So overall, I thought these three chapters had a lot of good information to get started with project-based learning. And I definitely feel more confident in being able to execute our project in my classroom. So thank you for listening.